Hi, it's Claudia, and in today's video, I wanted to continue our little series within the Shame and Condemnation series, which is how to stop shaming and condemning other people. And today I wanted to talk to you about forgiveness, which is a really huge part of our emotional skills. So in order for us to understand forgiveness, I have chosen today to share with you a parable that Jesus taught his disciples and the people that were following him at the time. So the parable is found in Matthew chapter 18, and the verses are 21 to 35. But I will confess to you that I am not the best out loud reader, so I'm hoping that you'll bear with me. So here we go. The parable of the unforgiving servant. Then Peter came to him, as in Jesus, and said, "Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times?" Jesus said to him, "I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. And when he had begun to settle accounts, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. But as he was not able to pay, his master commanded that he be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and that payment be made. The servant therefore fell down before him, saying, 'Master, have patience with me, and I will pay you all.' Then the master of that servant was moved with compassion, released him, and forgave him the debt. But that servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. And he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, 'Pay me what you owe.' So his fellow servant fell down at his feet and begged him, saying, 'Have patience with me, and I will pay you all.' And he would not, but went and threw him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what had been done, they were very grieved, and came and told their master all that had been done. Then his master, after he had called him, said to him, 'You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you begged me. Should you not also have had compassion on your fellow servant, just as I had pity on you?' And his master was angry and delivered him to the torturers until he should pay all that was due to him. So my heavenly Father also will do to you if each of you from his heart does not forgive his brother his trespasses." Okay, so in this story, in this parable, Jesus is telling us about how or what the kingdom of heaven is like. And in the kingdom of heaven, if we want to be forgiven, then we must also forgive other people. But as we can see here, and basically everything that Jesus is teaching us, he is not setting conditions depending on other people. So basically here and in other places, Jesus is telling us, if we want to be forgiven, which is a condition, then we must forgive. So forgiving other people, he's saying it's not dependent on them. And I have found this to be true in my own life. Because for a really long time, I was really angry with my parents. They were not the best parents, and they grew up in a really extreme environment. And they were basically in survival mode, I think, their whole lives. So then when they had children, that added on the pressures. So children weren't, me and my brother, we weren't a source of joy for my parents, but more pressure. So they ended up abusing me during my whole childhood, all the 19 years that I lived with them, and for as long as I was in contact with them. And for a really long time, I thought that what they did was horrible, and it was. But I thought that if I were to forgive them, that meant that I said it's okay what they did. And I didn't understand that basically we only are able to forgive someone who has wronged us. So forgiveness doesn't cancel out the wrong that was done, but it does set us free. And forgiveness, basically, as a Christian, it is between me and God. But if you're not a Christian, that's fine. I just want to encourage you to think about it, because basically, forgiveness is the peace that is setting us free. And in the next video, we're going to talk about exactly how to do that. But this is kind of like we're cutting the cord between us and the other person, that whatever they did to us, we want that to be in the past. So by not forgiving, by not looking into forgiveness, by thinking that if this, then that, if I forgive, then I say my parents were right and I deserved it, or I was a bad child, by taking this very simplistic approach and not looking at it as the complex subject that forgiveness is and that individual people are, I deprived myself of the peace of mind and the emotional freedom that forgiveness provides me. So I don't know about my parents. I don't know if they have taken the time to forgive themselves for what they did. And I haven't spoken to them, so I haven't told them that I have forgiven them. But doing this, the forgiveness for myself, it has set me free, because due to my abusive childhood, I developed complex post-traumatic stress disorder. But because I lived with this my whole life, I didn't realize that I was sick. I realized I was sick and something was wrong when I was 33. So that's like a really long time. I thought that everything was fine. I thought that this is life, and I thought that everybody else was like me. So by the time I was 33, things just piled on, and I didn't know how to process any of my emotions, and forgiveness is one of those ways. But I was just stuck in the thinking, if I forgive them, then that means that I'm a bad child, I'm a bad person, I deserved it, they should have done it. And none of that is true. Forgiveness has nothing to do with that. It's still, what they did is still wrong. The difference is that now I'm free. And as I was saying, so it kept piling on, the hurts from other people, and I kept having these emotional flashbacks. So when someone would look at me a funny way, or they would say something to me, it would trigger me back into the traumatic event with my parents, and I would have an overreaction emotionally to the current situation. So let's say that someone random on the street, they were angry for whatever reason, and they just happened to look at me. And then that would trigger me, and then I would spend days and maybe even weeks thinking about, well, why would they do this to me? Not having the mental capacity to understand that other people have their own lives, and everything that they do, even though it does interact with me, doesn't necessarily it's not necessarily caused by me directly. So I had struggled with this, and then after I was 33 and I realized that something was wrong, I started looking into mental disorders, and then I literally became obsessed, and I couldn't stop thinking about my parents and what they did to me and how that affected me. And my only relief was watching TV series online or on TV all the time to stop the obsessive thoughts that I had that had they were just, and sometimes I couldn't even sleep at night, and I had to come in the living room and I had to turn on the TV series and try to sleep again. So it just piled on. And I was so desperate last year that I was willing to try anything. And I said, okay, if forgiveness is something that I can try, then I want to do it. I want to see if this is something that could help me. And then I'll tell you in the next video exactly how that helps us. But this is what I wanted to share with you, that forgiveness, we can only forgive someone if they did something wrong, or else we would, I guess, praise them or love them or something else. So they're two separate things. And then I wanted to tell you, just 1 second, sorry, I have to check my notes. So forgiveness, it does not mean that we condone their behavior, that we agree with them, that they were right in what they did. None of this. It does imply that they did something wrong, as I said, and it means, and this was a little difficult for me to accept, but I did accept it, and I am so happy that I did, because now I am free. Forgiveness means I choose to pay the price of what the other person did, because I want to be free and I do not want to be tormented, as Jesus said. So in this parable, he's talking about this servant. So this servant owed his master a lot of money, but he asked for forgiveness. He said something along the lines of, "Master, have patience with me and I will pay you all." So that's, I guess, kind of like asking for forgiveness, like asking for patience, and then he will do the right thing. So then his master, he had compassion, and then his master forgave him the debt. But basically his master said, okay, I will cover the costs. I will cover the loss that your actions brought on me, but I'm making this decision. And then the master was free. But then the servant went out and he found one of his colleagues, I guess, and that colleague owed him a little money, not nearly as much as he owed the master, and he wouldn't forgive. So I have had, in the forgiveness process, I have had to deal with my own hypocrisy that I had lived with my whole life, right? Because as long as I wasn't forgiving my parents, I was being a hypocrite, because I wanted forgiveness. I wanted them, I wanted everyone else to forgive me for my mistakes, because I thought that my circumstances were enough of a justification for the mistakes that I made. So when I decided to forgive my parents, I had to look at my own behavior, and I had to admit to myself and to God that I had done a lot of mistakes, and I did a lot of stupid things, and I said a lot of stupid things, and I hurt a lot of people myself. So if I wanted forgiveness for myself, then I had to extend that to my parents. And being willing to do this actually helped me to clear up my mind and to realize that actually they themselves, they had rough childhoods themselves, and they were living under the communism in Romania their whole lives. So that's how they grew up, knowing that system, and they were living in constant fear and survival. So basically what I had done, because of the extreme abuse that I was under, I had decided that parents should be this unattainable people that are perfect, that they always know what to tell you, they always know how to soothe you, how to comfort you, how to love you, which actually is God, but human beings cannot do this because we can't read each other's minds, and we don't have the capacity to give all of this love all the time, since we have our own emotions and our own things that we're dealing with. So basically, I was expecting my parents to be God, and I felt entitled. I felt that for some reason I thought I deserved to have the perfect parents, and because I don't, somehow that's some kind of a justification for not taking responsibility for my words and my behavior and my thoughts right now. So once I did that, once I took responsibility for what I was doing, and I was 36 last year. So once I did this just set me free. Like I was free from all those obsessive thoughts, but it didn't happen overnight. So I will tell you in the next video how to do it. But for now, I just want you to kind of like get used to the idea that forgiveness is one of the most important emotional skills that we need. Because like in the case of my parents, they never admitted that they did anything wrong, and they never apologized. And then because of that, I trapped myself. I didn't realize that I was free. I was free to forgive them. But in a way, I trapped myself more and more by refusing to forgive them, and by saying I want them to pay for what they did to me, but I don't want to pay for what I did to other people. So this is a big thing, and I want to encourage you to think about it for the next few days, because it's not easy. And it took me a while. I mean, first of all, it took me 36 years to get to the point where I would even consider this as something to do in my life. So it's not going to be easy, but this is the key. And I have noticed in my inner healing journey that when it comes to, I'm going to call them non-physical things, so pain and emotional hurt and thought and stuff like this, they're not physical. We can't see them, obviously. But when it comes to these things, it seems to me like the solution is always the opposite of what we think it is. Because, like, for example, if we hurt ourselves or something, if we have a scratch or something, we don't have to do anything to heal, but emotionally and mentally, we have to put in the effort. And we have to learn the emotional skills. So this is what I would love for you to do in the next few days. Just get used to the idea that I think we all want to be forgiven, but for that to happen, but even for us to be set free, we need to forgive everyone who has hurt us. And as we know from the other scripture, Ephesians 4:26-27, we know that we need to do this every single day, because people will inadvertently hurt us every day, and we need to do it before the sun goes down, or else we give a foothold to the devil for him to come in and to lie to us, all kinds of things. And he has done that in my life a lot. Okay, so then, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you will have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video, which is the secret to forgiveness and how to forgive from the heart, as Jesus is telling us to do in this parable. So thank you so much, and see you in the next video. Bye.